Hi, my name is Brian Quach,
And I'm Jordan Wallace.
and we did our charisma plans on each other. So for my charisma plan, it consisted of a 4-week intensive charisma developing plan. The 4-week charisma plan consisted of week 1 being a 10 to 15 minute interview in which I was able to identify Jordan's SWOT. And his SWOT analysis was that his strengths was he was very confident. His weaknesses was charisma, opportunities would be developing more charisma, and his threats was criticism. Week 2 consisted of exercises of going around school for a whole week and randomly smiling at strangers. And in the end of that week, he said that it was difficult at first, smiling to all these random people, but he was able to receive a lot of smiles back, in which it was successful. And week 3 was randomly giving out compliments to people. And again, this was very difficult and strange at first, but he was able to approach random strangers and compliment them, and then also he was able to hold a 1 to 2 minute conversation with each stranger that he was able to compliment. And this was really good, in which the charisma plan was working so far. And in the end of the last week, I was able to interview him again, which was another 10 to 15 minute interview, and his SWOT analysis was different and he improved quite a lot. He was able to develop a lot of charisma, he exuded a lot more confidence, he was able to become a better active listener, and he was just a more wittier person. So with this plan, I wanted to work with Jordan on these factors, which include mirroring, active listening, being more confident around people, being more interesting, being more witty and engaging. So Jordan, what do you think your strengths are right now?
My strengths, let's see. Well, from the exercises you gave me, I feel that, talking to strangers, although it may still be a little awkward at first, but I feel that awkwardness rises faster now. I'm able to initiate the conversation a little bit easier without feeling so withdrawn into myself.
Do you still think charisma is your weakness, or do you think you've overcome that?
I wouldn't say charisma is my weakness at all. I still feel that I still have difficulty with criticisms and that. But as far as charisma, no, I feel better about myself and feel better about making other people feel better about themselves.
And do you see any opportunities right now?
Yeah, actually, I see opportunities with applying it in work, whether it be in sales or, coaching youth lacrosse. I feel like that this plan is going to help me. Using some of the techniques that you gave me and the techniques from what we learned in class, I feel like I can really apply those to both of my jobs.
And then, what would you say your threats are right now?
Threats would be falling back into when I was, pretty shy and, taking things personally. Mm-hmm. That would be my threats, would just be going back to that. And, yeah.
Brian's charisma plan took place over a 4-week period. For week 1, I had Brian take an online charisma quiz off of Opera.com to see the initial level of his charisma. After taking the quiz, Brian received a score of 50 through 60. People who receive the score are considered magnetic and extroverted. In other words, they're considered very charismatic. I also interviewed Brian about the results and see where he thought he might be able to improve. Brian thought he might be able to improve in situations such as speaking up in a group setting, using humor to lift conversation energy, having consistent positive energy in school or work. The second week of Brian's charisma plan, I had Brian focus on having consistent positive energy. To do this, I assigned him 2 tasks for the week. First task was, at work or school, compliment 15 people throughout the whole week. The second task was pick one day of the week to never stop smiling. At the end of the week, I sat down with Brian to have a little review. What were some of the questions from the people? I asked Brian. Brian responded, After complimenting people on their wardrobe or work or etc., people would smile and say thank you, and even some would have to stop and sort of process the compliment. Did you feel that these tasks help your positive energy? Brian responded, "Yeah, no doubt. Whether smiling at people or complimenting them, they're happy and the positive reactions would only boost my energy." For the third week, I had Brian focus on using humor to lighten up conversations. My task this time was a little bit more tricky. It was, at a party or bar, or even work, if appropriate, try to implement one funny story per conversation. At the end of the week, I sat down with Brian again for one more review. Obviously, having continuously high energy conversations, it must have had an impact on you. How did it make your day-to-day process different? Brian responded, "Yeah, it definitely made things different than usual. After each stimulating and funny conversation, I would be filled with bursts of energy and become more motivated about the day." Our fourth and final week, I had Brian take the quiz again to see if there was any change. Obviously, Brian's score was already pretty high, and significant change is unlikely. And as I predicted, Brian's score was the same. Now, although Brian's score did not change, and he's still considered a very charismatic person, as you will see in our SWOT analysis video, he does show some signs of improvements. Let's take a look.
So Brian, after all the assignments I gave you and after the whole process is done, what do you think some of the strengths are now?
I think my strengths for right now, after that whole plan, would be definitely more self-confidence. And I'd say my charisma has even I developed even more charisma, I think, too, which would be my strengths right now.
Yeah. Well, that's really good. What about your weaknesses? I know you don't have many, but I mean, we touched upon some in the beginning, but
yeah.
I mean, have you maybe alleviated some of those?
I'd say yeah, most of it, but I'd say because it was such only a 4-week plan and stuff, I didn't get that much practice, but
yeah,
I'd say still kind of just speaking up in a group setting.
Yeah,
I could still definitely work on that, but yeah. I've seen a lot of improvements.
What about opportunities, say, in work or in school?
Yeah, I'd say definitely with work now because we're graduating soon and all that, so
yeah.
It's definitely good to get some practice before we step into the work field.
No doubt. Okay, and finally, some threats potentially to this new game charisma?
I'd definitely say when I step into the real world.
Yeah.
And I could be in a corporate setting or something, and that's going to be entirely new to me.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a huge threat.
Well, I feel like there's always going to be an adjustment period no matter what, but having charisma or having, really great charisma, it just makes that adjustment period that much shorter.
So in the end, the key to being charismatic and unforgettable is to be mindful of others.
No one has the time to deal with somebody who is all about him or herself.